Surviving on a budget can be quite tricky. This is why I always mention to people to set up their savings fund before they get their animals and make sure they never run out of bedding and food. And what we do is always hold a stock of at least 1 month's supply of food and bedding. Buying in bulk saves you money with food and bedding. Just make sure you store everything in clean, dry conditions, and that would prevent the problem that you can have. Now, things do go wrong for people, I do understand that, and people do make mistakes and spend too much money. So I've just got a few ideas of some things that you can use. I wouldn't recommend you do this all the time, but this is emergency help really. So your money hasn't gone into the bank, it's been snowing, you can't get out of the house, all sorts of things can actually happen to you that it's not always your fault. If it is your fault and you've messed up, then learn from your mistakes, don't make the same mistake again, and build up your supplies and build up your emergency funds, and know that you are giving your rats the quality of life they deserve. Now, the bedding is probably the easiest thing to save money on. What we do here is we always keep the Amazon cardboard boxes. Now, they're quite good for, they have this corrugated card inside. Now, we take off the printed part because we don't know if the ink's safe, and we take off any tape, and then they're often dusty, and so what we always do is just get some tissue paper, just very slightly damp, with some hot water, and wipe all over both sides of the box. You'd be amazed how much dust is actually sitting on these boxes, and we don't want to transfer that to the corrugated paper. So we would wipe the box and leave it to stand for a day and make sure it's perfectly dry before you try to rip off the paper. Because you'll find that quite often your hands are really black after touching these, and you don't want to transfer the dirt onto here. So we rip off this paper from both sides, and it leaves us with this middle bit, this lovely corrugated bit in the middle, which we can simply shred down. Never cut paper or card, always rip and don't shred it, always rip by hand, because you get less dust and you get a much softer paper. So then when you've got this corrugated paper, just scrunch it up really hard in your hands. I can't do really hard, but that's what you need to do, really scrunch it, make it nice and soft. And this is also a packing material which you can use. Take off any shiny bits, which are the actual tape. You don't want the bits with the tape on or the bits with the ink on, but there'll be plenty of bits left that have no tape, and just simply rip those into small pieces. They are slightly harder, so they need a bit more scrunching down, but they can be used, either of those can be used on their own, or they can be used mixed with the substrate bedding. So you see here I've just put some of our Back to Nature, which is good for absorbing the smell, and you could mix it in. These aren't going to be as good for absorbing the smell, and they're not going to last so long because they're going to get all soggy. But you can bulk out your existing bedding by mixing it in, or in an emergency just use the card on its own. The other thing you can do is get free newspapers, as many as you can. If they've got any staples in, remove the staples, and you need to check that this is non-toxic ink. So I'm told that if you run your finger across and no ink comes off, then it's vegetable ink and it's safe. But I would always check with the company, which is quite easy if it's a local company, email or phone, and just ask them, is this non-toxic vegetable ink that is safe to use for my animals? And hopefully they will tell you yes, and you can, in which case go and collect as many free papers from your local shops as you can. Ask your neighbours and friends to keep your newspapers, and most people will be quite happy to do that for you. Don't use magazines with the coloured pictures, supplements with coloured pictures, and especially never use the glossy magazines because they are not safe. So that's one way you can save on your bedding. We'll also keep the inner liners from our Back to Nature bag, and this is just a piece of unwaxed wrapping or packing paper. So always keep that, because that can also be shredded. Just going to get rid of the tray for a minute. And what that's particularly good for is for making little boxes, like a little house for your rats. If you get some little cardboard boxes, take off all the tape, make sure there's no staples, and what we've done there is just woven the corners in on themselves to keep the box in one piece. We've left a bit open at the front, and we've filled that with shredded scrunched paper, and that makes a very warm and cosy house that can be replaced when it gets dirty and chewed. If you what we would try and do is put some of our safe bed paper in the bottom and then top up with this paper to bulk out the safe bed paper. But that makes a very warm, snug house. If your power goes off and it's really cold and you have no heating, a cardboard box is the warmest house filled with paper for your rats to sleep in. So that's a really good handy trick if you're worried about your rats getting cold. So lots of cardboard boxes, keep them fairly small and snug. If you've got lots of rats, then go for the bigger box, but you've got to put lots of paper in, otherwise they will get cold. The other thing that we do is we make a lot of toys. You may have seen the shakers and the rope toys, and I have a new toy here which is a twisty toy, which is just a toilet roll holder which I just cut along the lines, the sections, and I've just twisted it and twisted it and twisted it till it's gone really small and tight, and I've tucked the end in on itself. And with this one, that will hold on its own for rats as like a little toy or a chew, and it's surprising how hard this is. This one I just threaded a little piece of string through the ends before I tucked the end bits in, and that's so I can hang it up on the side of the cage. So use your imagination, lots of toys. If you use fleece, liners or fleece for hammocks, I know a lot of you go to charity shops and like the pound shops, and they pick up fleeces, pet fleeces and baby fleeces. So that's another way that you can save money on a budget, if you can make your own hammocks and things, and liners for your cage. I think one of the important things, the big bills, is vet bills, especially the emergency bills. Like in September we suddenly had a £400 emergency vet bill, where we had 3 visits in a week, and one of them was a £200 bill, so that is quite a shocker. So we we don't have a lot of money, and we don't have a lot we can cut back on because we're non-smoking, non-drinking house, and all our money goes on our rats. So we had to actually go on, make sure that we did cut out all luxuries, even though there wasn't many there. Like I said, everyone likes to have a little luxury like a magazine or a bar of chocolate now and again. So we actually went on all the budget foods and saved a bit of money that way, and because we always have a month's supply of food and bedding, the rats were okay for food and bedding. You'll find, get onto good terms with your vet, and you'll find that most of them will help you out and they will arrange instalments for you. Another thing that you can do is you can build up some credit at your vets, so that each time you go in, or you can go in like say once a month and put 10, 20, however many pounds you have onto your vet bill, onto your account, and that will sit there as a credit for you. And then if you have an emergency bill, you'll know that there's always some money available. And the fact that you put some money in there regularly each month, the vet knows they can trust you to come back and that you'll pay your bill. There are also charities that can help you if you have emergencies. If you're in the UK, we've got the PDSA, Friends of the Animals and the RSPCA, who may not pay all your bill. Some of them will pay part of the bill, some of them will ask for a donation. So, never be scared to think you can't go to the vet. You must always phone them if there's an emergency, or phone one of the animal charities, and there is a help out there and you can get that help. So don't let your rats suffer. I'm just trying to think if I always forget something. I always have to put a note on. Have a terrible memory. Yes, if you have regular medicines, ask your vet if it was going to be cheaper for you to have a written prescription, and you may be able to buy the medicines online. And always use a company that is in your own country and where you've checked out that they're a genuine company, that you've talked to the people, you made sure that they're going to give you the proper medicines. Get some references from other people if you can. There's two companies that I've been in contact with, which is Vet UK and VioVet, who are both small companies based in the UK who have a lot of discount, not only medicines but the pet bedding, and they're very good. So my Back to Nature is only £12 at Vet UK, where it's £17 in my local pet shop. So there are ways to save money. You just have to spend a bit of time, but online and buying in bulk. And definitely look at if you have regular medicines, that possibly getting them, if it's going to work out cheaper, from the online vet store. Ready mixed foods are always going to be cheaper for your rats, and it's going to contain all the vitamins and minerals. You can supplement them with some of your own food, but don't let your rats miss out on their fresh fruit and vegetable. You can go to the supermarket and buy 1 carrot and 1 apple, and just make sure they always get their proper food. There's no excuse for not feeding your rats. You should never run out of rat food. We always keep a few spare water bottles because it's hard to rig up a water bottle. I have done it before for guinea pigs, but not for rats. Rats will destroy things. You need a proper water bottle for rats. We found things like the supermarket own brand of Cheerios that you use for treats, the multigrain hoops, less than half the price of the branded Cheerios, and just as tasty and less sugar in, so actually better. So I think there's lots of ways that you can actually save money, and if any of you think of anything you have a really good idea of saving money, then please let us know. We'd really like to know. But I think the important thing is to be prepared. Try not to get into this situation. If you are in a situation, don't panic. You can always send me a message and I will try and think of some ideas for you. I'm sure there's plenty of things that I've forgotten to say, but try and be prepared. Get that savings fund going. Don't panic. Always keep food in the house for your rats. Even if you get low on bedding, always have their ratty food. And don't panic.